The asteroid field glittered like broken glass in the void, a perfect hiding spot for the wounded beast that was the HSS Defiance. Inside the bridge, Captain James Miller gripped the command chair as the ship's systems hummed around him. "Status report," he ordered, his voice steady despite knowing they were the last. "The last human warship. The last hope." "Dominion ships have entered the sector, Captain," replied Lisa, her eyes fixed on the sensor display. 17 cruisers, 2 dreadnoughts, and at least 30 fighter squadrons. They're spreading out in search pattern Alpha. Miller nodded, his weathered face revealing nothing of the fear gripping his heart. 5 years of war with the Galactic Dominion had taught him to hide such things. 5 years since the aliens had arrived in human space, their massive fleet darkening skies across a dozen colonies. "Tom, how's our stealth system holding up?" Miller called to his chief engineer. "Barely functioning, sir," Tom replied over the comm. His voice echoed from deep within the ship's bowels, where he fought to keep their damaged systems online. "The heat sinks are nearly saturated. We've got 30 minutes, maybe less, before we start bleeding thermal signatures." Miller allowed himself a small sigh. Just 3 days ago, the Defiance had been part of humanity's last defensive fleet, 20 ships strong, protecting the approach to Earth. Now, they were all that remained. "Max, show me Earth's current status," Miller ordered. The ship's AI assistant projected a hologram at the center of the bridge. Earth appeared, surrounded by a shimmering blue barrier, humanity's last defense. But even through the projection, Miller could see the energy shield flickering, weakening under constant bombardment. "The planetary shield is operating at 37% capacity," Max reported, its synthetic voice eerily calm. "Estimated failure in 14 days, 7 hours. Weapons expert Mark stood from his station, approaching the hologram. "Sir, we can't hide forever. What's the plan?" "The Defiance is tough, but she's just one ship." Miller's mind flashed back to his final orders, delivered by Admiral Carter just before the last battle that had scattered their fleet. "Find their weakness," the Admiral had said. "The eggheads think there might be something unusual about their command structure. You're our best captain, Miller. If anyone can find a crack in their armor, it's you." "We're not hiding, Mark," Miller finally said, standing to face his crew. "We're hunting." Lisa turned from her station, confusion clear on her face. "Hunting, sir? The entire Dominion fleet is hunting us. And that's exactly why they'll never expect us to be hunting them," Miller replied, a grim smile forming. "Max, show me the data we collected during the Proxima engagement." The hologram shifted, displaying a complex network of energy signatures between Dominion ships. "I've been studying their communication patterns. Their fleet doesn't operate like ours," Miller explained, pointing to the intricate web of connections. "They don't use standard command chains. It's more centralized. Almost like a hive mind?" Lisa suggested, stepping closer to examine the display. "Not quite," Miller said. "But close. Their ships seem dependent on constant instructions from their command vessels. During the Proxima battle, when we managed to disable their lead ship temporarily, 3 of their cruisers just stopped fighting. Became disoriented." Tom's voice crackled over the comm again. "So if we could disrupt their command structure, we might stand a chance," Miller finished. "One ship against their empire. But we need more data." The ship suddenly trembled, lights flickering momentarily. "They've deployed scanning probes in the asteroid field," Max announced. "Probability of detection has increased to 64%. Miller returned to his chair. "Mark, arm a probe with our sensor package. We need to get close to one of their ships, record everything about their communication systems." "That's suicide, Captain," Lisa said quietly. "No," Miller replied, his eyes fixed on the distant stars. "That's our mission. Earth has 14 days. We're going to make them count. The deck vibrated beneath them as a proximity alarm blared. Dominion cruiser, bearing 27 Mark IV, Lisa called out. They've spotted us. Battle stations, Miller ordered, his voice like steel. Let's show them what one human warship can do. As the crew rushed to their positions, Miller allowed himself one last quiet thought: against all logic, against all odds, he wasn't afraid anymore. The Defiance might be outnumbered, outgunned, and running out of time, but they had something the Dominion couldn't understand. They had nothing left to lose. Evasive maneuvers. Miller barked as energy beams sliced through space where the Defiance had been moments before. The ship shuddered violently as Tom pushed the engines beyond their limits, weaving through the asteroid field. They've deployed fighters, sir. Mark reported, his fingers dancing across the weapons console. Point defense systems engaging. The Defiance shook again as a glancing hit struck their starboard shield. Miller gripped his chair, watching as Lisa coordinated their defensive patterns. Captain, I'm reading a power fluctuation in the Dominion cruiser's command systems when they issue new orders to their fighters, Lisa said, eyes fixed on her readouts. It's consistent with our Proxima data. Miller nodded. Max, analyze and confirm. Confirmed, the AI responded after a moment. Dominion vessels show a 0.47-second communication lag between command input and fighter response. The pattern suggests centralized control rather than autonomous operation. Another explosion rocked the ship as an asteroid near them was vaporized. I need some room to work, Miller said. Mark, deploy countermeasures. Tom, on my mark, full burn through the asteroid gap at heading 340. The crew acknowledged, tension thick in the air. Mark, now. The Defiance surged forward, thrusters flaring bright against the darkness. Behind them, sensor-confusing chaff bloomed like metallic flowers, temporarily blinding the Dominion sensors. Minutes later, the ship drifted silently in the shadow of a massive asteroid, systems powered down to minimum levels. We've lost them for now, Lisa confirmed. But they'll be back with reinforcements. Miller gathered his senior crew in the tactical room, the ship's lights dimmed to conserve power. A holographic display showed their current situation, one small blue dot surrounded by an ever-growing number of red markers signifying Dominion ships. 7 years ago, before the Dominion arrived, I was assigned to study alien communication systems, Miller revealed, his voice low. I found something interesting that might help us now. He brought up an old file showing signal patterns. Most advanced species develop decentralized command systems, redundancy is survival. But the Dominion does the opposite. Their entire fleet operates like extensions of a few command ships. That's why targeting their lead ship at Proxima caused such confusion, Lisa realized. Tom leaned forward. So we don't need to destroy their fleet, just their ability to coordinate it. Exactly, Miller said. I believe we can develop a virus, a signal that mimics their command codes but introduces conflicts and contradictions. Mark looked skeptical. Even if we could create such a virus, how would we deploy it? We'd need to get close to their command ship. One problem at a time, Miller replied. Lisa, you and Max start working on analyzing their communication protocols. Tom, I need you to modify our communication array to broadcast on their frequencies. As the crew dispersed to their tasks, Miller's personal tablet chimed. It was a message from Earth Command, the last they'd received before communications went dark. It contained information about High Commander Grax, the Dominion leader spearheading the assault on human space. The attached video showed a tall, gray-skinned being with 4 eyes arranged vertically on a face dominated by an elaborate breathing apparatus. The Dominion exists to bring order to chaos, Grax's translated voice declared. Humanity's resistance is merely disorder to be corrected. Miller studied the alien's features, trying to understand the mind of his enemy. 3 days later, Lisa called Miller to the science lab, excitement evident in her voice. "We've done it, Captain," she said, pointing to a simulation on her screen. "Max and I have identified the base encryption in their command signals. We can create a virus that will insert contradictory orders into their command chain." "Will it work?" Miller asked. "In theory," Max responded. "But we require a test subject to confirm efficacy." Miller's face hardened with resolve. "Then we'll get one." Long-range sensors detected a small Dominion outpost in the Kepler sector. One patrol ship, minimal defenses. "You want to attack them?" Mark asked incredulously. "That would reveal our position to the entire Dominion fleet." "Not if we're quick," Miller countered. "We hit them, test our virus, and disappear before reinforcements arrive." Tom looked concerned. "The Defiance took heavy damage in our last encounter. She's barely holding together as it is." "Then patch her up as best you can," Miller ordered. "Because this is our only shot." Across the vast expanse of space, aboard the Dominion command vessel Inexorable, High Commander Grax received a report of unusual activity near the Kepler sector outpost. "The human warship?" Grax asked, his 4 eyes narrowing. "Unconfirmed, High Commander, but the attack pattern matches their tactics." Grax's upper eyes blinked slowly. "Interesting. They're testing something. Redirect Scout Division 7 to the sector, but do not engage. I want to know what they're planning." He turned to gaze at the tactical display showing the last known trajectory of the human vessel. "One ship against our empire," he mused. "Such defiance deserves special attention." The Defiance drifted through space, its hull now bearing the markings and energy signature of a Dominion supply vessel. The disguise was Tom's masterwork, salvaged tech from their successful raid on the Kepler outpost, where they had tested their virus on a single patrol ship with promising results. Hull temperature nominal. Emission patterns matching Dominion specifications, Tom reported from engineering. "As long as no one looks too closely, we should pass for one of theirs." Miller nodded, studying the star map that showed their perilous course through the heart of Dominion territory. Their target, the Central Command Fleet where High Commander Grax coordinated the assault on human space, was still days away. "Any signals from the convoy ahead?" Miller asked Lisa, who monitored communication channels. "Standard Dominion traffic. They've accepted our identification codes," she replied, relief evident in her voice. "The virus modifications to their systems at Kepler are still working, they've added us to their logistics network." The bridge fell silent as they approached a massive Dominion checkpoint. 3 cruisers hung in space, scanning all passing vessels. Miller held his breath as the Defiance moved through the checkpoint, every crew member frozen at their stations. "We're clear," Lisa finally whispered as they passed beyond scanner range. The tension broke, replaced by nervous laughter and released breaths. "Max, update our navigation route." "I want to avoid major fleet concentrations," Miller ordered. "Calculating," the AI responded. "Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy readings from a nearby star system. It does not match known Dominion patterns." Curious, Miller ordered a course adjustment. As they approached, they discovered a small mining colony on the system's 3rd planet. The inhabitants, a reptilian species with iridescent scales, were clearly laboring under Dominion oversight. The Krell, Max identified after consulting its database. A spacefaring race conquered by the Dominion approximately 30 years ago. "Sir," Lisa interjected, "I'm picking up subspace transmissions from the surface. It's not Dominion encryption. I think it's a resistance communication." Miller made a quick decision. "Mark, prep a stealth shuttle. Lisa, you're with me. Tom, keep the Defiance hidden in the planet's magnetic field." Hours later, Miller and Lisa sat in a dimly lit underground chamber, facing a group of Krell resistance leaders. The aliens' golden eyes regarded the humans with cautious hope. "The Dominion believes their conquest is inevitable," said Thax, the Krell leader, his voice a rasping whisper. "For 3 decades, we have fought from the shadows, waiting for an opportunity. We're fighting them too," Miller explained. "We've developed a way to disrupt their command systems, but we need to reach their central fleet." Thax's head crest extended in what appeared to be excitement. "We have operatives throughout their territory. We can provide you with fleet movements, patrol schedules, information that could get you past their defenses." "Why help us?" Lisa asked. "Because in 30 years, your species is the first to strike back effectively," Thax replied. "The first to give us hope." Back aboard the Defiance, Miller used the Krell intelligence to plot a new course, a dangerous path through sensor blind spots and patrol gaps that could take them directly to Grax's command ship. "It's risky," Mark observed, studying the route. "One sensor sweep at the wrong moment. Which is why we need better stealth." Miller turned to Tom. "How are the modifications coming?" Tom gestured to a schematic of the Defiance. "I've rerouted power from non-essential systems to enhance our cloaking field. We can maintain full stealth for 6 hours before needing to vent heat." Lisa entered the bridge, excitement in her steps. "Captain, I've improved the virus using the Krell data. It's not just disruptive anymore, it's potentially catastrophic to their entire command structure." Miller nodded appreciatively. "Max, final calculations on our approach vector?" "Completed, Captain," the AI responded. "Based on the Krell intelligence, there is a maintenance cycle in the Dominion sensor network that occurs every 26 hours. Exploiting this window increases our success probability by 23%. For 3 tense days, the Defiance crept deeper into enemy territory, hiding when necessary, disguising itself as Dominion traffic when possible. Twice they nearly collided with unexpected patrols, saved only by Tom's enhanced stealth systems and Mark's quick defensive reflexes. On the 4th day, Lisa called Miller to her station. "Captain, I think we're being followed." Miller studied her sensor readings, a chill running down his spine. "Are you certain?" "The same energy signature has appeared at our last 3 stopping points," she explained. "Always at extreme sensor range, always disappearing when we change course." Miller's jaw clenched. "Someone knows we're here." Just then, the ship's proximity alarm blared. Directly ahead, emerging from the darkness of space like a nightmare-given form, was the massive silhouette of the Dominion Central Fleet, dozens of capital ships surrounding an enormous command vessel. "There it is," Miller whispered. "The heart of the beast." Mark stepped up beside him, eyes wide at the overwhelming force displayed before them. "How do we get close to that?" Miller's face hardened with determination. "Very carefully." "All stop," Miller ordered, his voice barely above a whisper despite the fact that sound couldn't travel through the vacuum of space. The Defiance hung motionless, its stealth systems straining to mask their presence from the armada arrayed before them. "That's a lot of ships," Tom said, his usual confidence wavering as he stared at the tactical display. Hundreds of Dominion vessels surrounded an enormous command ship nearly 5 times the size of the largest human dreadnought ever built. Lisa's hands flew across her console. "Captain, I'm detecting unusual communication patterns. The fleet isn't in a standard defensive formation." Miller's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "They're arranged in a funnel pattern, with gaps in their sensor coverage, almost like a trap," Miller finished, a cold realization washing over him. "They know we're coming." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. "High Commander Grax," Miller muttered. "He's expecting us." Mark stood from his weapon station. "We should retreat, regroup. Find another way." Miller shook his head, memories flooding back unbidden. His wife Laura's face, his daughter Emma's laugh, both lost when the Dominion destroyed the Arcturus colony in the war's 2nd year. He had received the news while on patrol, unable even to say goodbye. "There is no other way," Miller said firmly. "Earth's defenses will fail in 9 days. This is our only shot." He turned to face his crew, determination hardening his features. "They're expecting us to approach, but they don't know what we're planning. We can use that." For the next hour, they formulated a desperate plan. Tom worked to modify their single remaining shuttle into a convincing decoy, while Lisa and Max refined the virus to ensure maximum effectiveness. "The missile pods are ready," Mark reported. "I've modified 6 warheads to carry the virus transmitter. Each one can broadcast for approximately 8 minutes before the Dominion systems can isolate and neutralize it." "Will that be enough time?" Miller asked Lisa. She exchanged a glance with Max before answering. "If we can get close enough to the command ship, maybe. The virus will spread from ship to ship through their communication network, but it needs to start from a primary node. Which means we need to hit the command ship directly," Miller concluded. Tom's voice came over the comm. "Decoy shuttle is prepped, Captain. I've loaded it with enough radioactive material to mask as a small warship on their sensors. Remote guidance systems are online." Miller took a deep breath. "Let's begin. Launch the decoy." The small shuttle detached from the Defiance, its engines flaring as it moved on a direct course toward the Dominion fleet. Almost immediately, several enemy vessels broke formation to intercept. "They've taken the bait," Lisa confirmed. "Dominion communication channels are lighting up." Miller nodded grimly. "Now for the hard part. Tom, plot a course through the Carillon Nebula. Full stealth mode." The Defiance moved slowly at first, then accelerated toward a dense cloud of ionized gas that bordered the fleet's position. The nebula would mask their approach, but navigating through its unpredictable magnetic fields and radiation pockets would be extraordinarily dangerous. "Shields failing," Tom called out as they penetrated the nebula's outer boundary. Electrical discharges danced across the ship's hull, systems flickering as power surged unpredictably. "Stay on course," Miller ordered, gripping his chair as the ship bucked violently. For 20 agonizing minutes, the Defiance fought its way through the nebula, sustenance systems failing, life support reduced to emergency levels. When they finally emerged on the other side, they were less than 50,000 kilometers from Grax's command ship, and completely undetected. "We made it," Lisa whispered, almost afraid to believe it. "Hull integrity at 62%, Tom reported. Multiple breaches on decks 3 through 7. Emergency bulkheads holding." Miller studied the tactical display. "The decoy is still drawing their attention. We have a clear shot at the command ship's communication array. Missile pods 1 through 6 ready," Mark confirmed. "Targeting solutions locked." Miller took a final look at his crew, these brave few who had followed him on this impossible mission. "Fire." 6 missiles streaked from the Defiance toward the massive command ship, each carrying the virus that represented humanity's last hope. Aboard the Dominion command vessel, High Commander Grax watched the approaching missiles with his 4 eyes unblinking. "Intercept those weapons," he ordered calmly. "And prepare to lock onto the human vessel's true position." On the Defiance's bridge, Lisa's triumphant expression suddenly fell. "Captain, the missiles, they're being intercepted." One by one, the missiles detonated far short of their target, destroyed by the command ship's point defense systems. Miller's heart sank as the last missile exploded. How did they know? Then the ship rocked violently as multiple Dominion energy beams found their target. Alarms blared throughout the Defiance as systems failed and breaches multiplied. "They've locked onto us," Mark shouted over the chaos. "Multiple capital ships moving to our position." On the main view screen, the enormous bulk of Grax's command ship turned toward them, weapon ports glowing with building energy. Now, Grax's voice came over their comm system, somehow breaching their encryption, we will see what one human warship can really do. The Defiance shuddered as another volley of energy beams struck its weakening shields. Warning lights flashed across every console on the bridge, and the acrid smell of burned circuitry filled the air. "Shields at 18%, Tom reported, his voice strained as he worked feverishly to reroute power. "One more direct hit and we're done for." Miller's mind raced. The missiles had failed, their primary plan destroyed before it could even begin. But something about the interception bothered him, it had been too perfect, too anticipated. "Lisa," he called, "why were our missiles detected so easily?" Lisa looked up from her damaged station, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. "They knew exactly where to look, as if they were expecting missiles," Miller finished. "But they don't know about the virus." A slow smile spread across his face as realization dawned. "That was never our real plan." He turned to the holographic interface where Max's presence was indicated by a pulsing blue light. "Max, initiate Protocol Omega." "Initiating Protocol Omega," the AI confirmed. "Beginning direct transmission." Miller had kept this final plan secret from most of the crew, sharing it only with Max. While the missiles were meant to appear as conventional weapons, they were merely a distraction. The real plan involved Max transmitting the virus directly from the Defiance's communication array, a method far more difficult to detect or counter. "I don't understand," Mark said, looking between Miller and the tactical display. "The missiles were bait," Miller explained. "We needed Grax to focus on them while Max implements the real attack." On the main screen, the Dominion ships continued their advance, but something was changing. Several smaller vessels suddenly broke formation, their movements becoming erratic. "It's working," Lisa exclaimed, watching her readings. "The virus is spreading through their communication network." Miller allowed himself a moment of hope. "Status of the transmission, Max?" "Virus deployment at 27%, the AI responded. "Estimated time to complete infiltration, 4 minutes, 17 seconds. A new volley of energy beams struck the Defiance, this time penetrating the failing shields. The ship lurched violently, throwing crew members to the deck. "Hull breach on deck 2. Tom shouted. "Emergency containment failing." Miller gripped his chair. "Reroute all non-essential power to the communication array. We need to keep transmitting." Across the battlefield, the effects of the virus were becoming more apparent. Dominion ships fired on empty space, changed course without reason, or powered down weapons systems mid-battle. The perfectly coordinated fleet was descending into chaos. "Sir," Lisa called out, "I'm detecting a direct communication attempt from the Dominion command ship." Miller nodded. "Put it through." The screen flickered, then resolved to show High Commander Grax. The alien's 4 eyes seemed to burn with cold fury. "Captain Miller," Grax said, his translated voice unervingly calm. "An impressive display of desperation. But futile." "Looks like your fleet might disagree," Miller replied, gesturing to the tactical display where more and more Dominion ships were falling into disarray. Grax's upper eyes narrowed. "A temporary inconvenience. You've merely affected our auxiliary systems." Even as he spoke, 2 Dominion cruisers collided in the background, their navigation systems corrupted by the virus. "Virus deployment at 58%, Max reported quietly. Grax leaned forward. "Your species has been a persistent irritant, Captain. But this ends now." The command ship's massive forward weapons array began to glow with building energy. "Main reactor failing," Tom warned. "We've got maybe 2 minutes of power left." Miller maintained his calm gaze at Grax. "You still don't understand what we're doing, do you?" For the first time, uncertainty flickered across the alien commander's features. "Virus deployment at 72%, Max reported." Miller allowed himself a small smile. "You built your empire on absolute control, perfect coordination. But humans, we thrive in chaos. More Dominion ships were now drifting powerless, their systems overwhelmed by contradictory commands. A few had begun firing on each other, unable to distinguish friend from foe. Virus deployment at 89%, Max announced. Grax's composure finally broke. Stop the transmission, he ordered someone off-screen. Sever all fleet communications. Too late, Miller said quietly. The bridge of the Defiance went dark as the main reactor finally failed. Emergency lighting cast everything in a dim red glow. We've lost power to the communication array, Tom reported, his voice hollow with defeat. Transmission terminated. Lisa looked up from her station, tears forming in her eyes. We were so close. Miller stared at the screen where Grax's image had been, now showing only the looming shadow of the command ship preparing to fire its main weapon. Max, Miller said into the silence, status report. The AI's voice came through weakly on emergency power. Virus deployment reached 94% before transmission terminated. Is that enough? Miller asked. There was a pause before Max answered. Uncertain. However, there is something else, Captain. The final component of the virus has activated. Final component? Mark asked, looking confused. Max's blue light pulsed softly. A secondary virus, embedded within the primary code. While most of the fleet is experiencing system failures, the command ship is about to receive something different. On the view screen, the command ship's weapons suddenly powered down. Then, to the astonishment of everyone on the bridge, its massive engines ignited, turning the behemoth directly toward its own fleet. What's happening? Lisa breathed. Miller's expression was grim but satisfied. The real plan. We couldn't destroy the command ship, so we're taking control of it. The bridge of the Defiance was eerily quiet, lit only by the red emergency lights and the glow of backup systems. Through the main viewport, the crew watched in awe as the massive Dominion command ship carved a destructive path through its own fleet. I don't understand, Mark said, breaking the silence. How is this possible? Miller's eyes remained fixed on the chaos unfolding before them. Max didn't just create a virus to disrupt their communications. He created a backdoor into their command systems. The secondary virus was designed to lie dormant until deployed, Max explained, its voice coming through weak emergency speakers. While the primary virus caused system-wide disruption, this one targeted the command ship's central computer specifically. It doesn't just confuse, it controls. Tom emerged from a maintenance shaft, his face streaked with grease. I've managed to restore emergency power to essential systems. We've got minimal shields, life support, and engines at 30% capacity. What about weapons? Miller asked. One main cannon operational, Mark reported. But we barely have enough power to fire at once. Lisa looked up from her station. Captain, I'm detecting unusual activity on the Dominion command ship. They're trying to purge their systems. How long before they regain control? Miller demanded. Difficult to calculate, Max replied. Perhaps 10 minutes. No more than 15. The comm system crackled, and High Commander Grax's face appeared on the flickering view screen. His usually composed features were twisted with rage. What have you done? He snarled, the translation barely keeping up with his fury. Miller rose from his chair, standing tall despite the damaged ship around him. We found your weakness, Commander. Your perfect system, your centralized control, we turned it against you. This is temporary, Grax hissed. We will regain control, and when we do. You won't have anything left to control, Miller interrupted. Look around you. The camera panned to show the Dominion fleet in complete disarray. Ships collided or fired upon one another, while others drifted powerless. The perfect, overwhelming force that had conquered half of human space was now destroying itself. "You still have one ship against hundreds," Grax said, desperation edging into his voice. "You cannot win this war." Miller's face hardened. This was never about winning the war today. It was about giving humanity a fighting chance. He turned to his crew. "Tom, divert all remaining power to the main cannon. Mark, target the command ship's engine control node." "That's a precision shot, sir," Mark warned. "With our damaged targeting systems." "I know," Miller replied. "But it's our only chance." Tom's fingers flew across his console. "Power diverted. We'll have 10 seconds of full weapons capacity before systems fail completely." The Defiance trembled as its last reserves of energy flowed into the main cannon. On the view screen, Grax seemed to realize what was happening. "Pathetic," the alien commander sneered. "Your final act of defiance?" Miller met his gaze steadily. "We named our ship well, didn't we?" Mark's hand hovered over the firing control. "Target locked, Captain." "As good as it's going to get." Miller took one last look at his brave crew, Tom, Lisa, Mark, and the steady blue light that represented Max. They had followed him on this impossible mission, and somehow, against all odds, they stood on the precipice of success. "Fire," Miller ordered. The Defiance's main cannon released a blinding beam of energy that streaked across space toward the command ship. For a terrible moment, it seemed the shot would miss. Then it struck precisely at the junction where the engine control systems were located. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The command ship's engines, already running at dangerous levels due to the virus, overloaded. Secondary explosions cascaded along its massive hull. "Direct hit!" Mark shouted, disbelief and joy mingling in his voice. The view screen went dark as Grax's transmission cut off. Outside, the command ship's destruction sent a shockwave through what remained of the Dominion fleet. Without their central control node, the surviving ships fell into even greater confusion. "Max," Miller said, "broadcast on all frequencies, all languages. Tell any surviving human ships, it's time to come out of hiding." The message went out, carried on emergency power. For several long minutes, there was only silence. Then, one by one, signals began to appear on Lisa's console. "Captain," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "They're responding. Dozens of ships from all across human space. They're coming." 3 weeks later, the battered Defiance limped into Earth orbit, escorted by a growing fleet of human vessels. Miller stood at the viewport, watching as the planetary shield, now powered down for the first time in years, revealed the blue-green planet below. "What happens now, Captain?" Lisa asked, joining him at the window. Miller watched as a shuttle approached to take them down to the surface, where they would be celebrated as the heroes who had turned the tide of an impossible war. "Now," he said quietly, "we rebuild. And we take back what's ours." In the distance, the stars beckoned, no longer harbingers of an unstoppable alien force, but once again symbols of humanity's potential and future. The war wasn't over, but thanks to one warship and its determined crew, for the first time since the Dominion had arrived, humanity had hope. And that, Miller knew, was the most powerful weapon of all.